Welcome back to another video, and thanks for tuning in. It's been a minute since I vlogged, but thank you for all the support and the love that you have shown me on the previous videos. I really appreciate it. Your comments, I have just read through all of them. I just have not gotten the strength to respond to all of them yet, but I will be sure to do so. So on today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you about my labor and delivery story, and this is the day that my angel finally came into the world. So before that, I worked until the 18th. My due date was on the 31st of January, but I worked until the 18th, and I felt like if I continued going to work, I might just go into labor while at work. So I stopped going to work on the 18th, and given the history with my elder sisters, their babies had come like 10 days earlier or maybe a week earlier, so I also just thought that it was possible I wouldn't go all the way through to my expected date of delivery. So I thought the baby would come earlier, so it was best to stop going to work and just stay home and prepare. But during my pregnancy, especially the last trimester, I was very active. I used to walk a lot just to help the baby to descend and to speed up the labor, if I could say that. So on the 19th, I just stayed home and did all the nesting, did the cleaning, because at that point I had gotten my own home, as I told you in the previous video. So I did some cleaning. By then I hadn't furnished the apartment because the check that I was expecting, the miracle money from Batian, had not matured by the time I was going to deliver. In fact, I hadn't even received the check yet. And I think just before I had gone to just after I stopped going to work, that's when I got the call from the accountant, and she told me that the check was ready and asked if I was able to go and collect it, or should they send somebody to deposit it into my account for me. And I thought that, okay, if that is an option, then they should definitely do that. So I gave them my account number, and they sent somebody to deposit the check for me. So as I was expecting my baby, I was also expecting the money. So the money was already maturing in the account. Something funny, like I think a few days before I went into labor, Mr. Man, and that is the baby daddy, tracked me down to my doorstep. So I was at home, and it was something like maybe 9 p.m. in the night, and I got a knock at my door from my landlord, because I used to stay in an extension shared compound with the owner of the house. So this man came and told me that there is an Asian man at the gate looking for you. And I was like, okay, I don't know any Asian men. Which Asian man could be looking for me at that time of the night? And then it hit me, because I didn't tell you this before, but the baby daddy was Arab. So I thought, okay, maybe that is what he's referring to. So I went, just shut the door and went and checked at the gate, and it was him standing there tall. And I locked the gate behind me, and because there was a main gate, and then there was now the small gate like leading into the various homes. So within the compound, as I was walking him out of the gate, I asked him, like, how did you find me? And he told me that is not important. So I don't know if he used his whatever psychic abilities to track me down, or I tried to find out like exactly how he was able to track me down to my doorstep. I couldn't, and he didn't tell me how. So anyway, I left it at that, and he told me, oh, okay, I found out that you did not terminate the pregnancy, you kept the baby. So what are you going to tell the child? That I am the bad one, that I did not want her to leave, and you're actually the one that got to protect her. And I told him I will tell the baby whatever the truth is. Whenever she is ready to hear the truth, I will tell her whatever the truth is. And he kind of, I think he apologized, and he said, I'm sorry for asking you to terminate the pregnancy, and I hope one day you'll find it in your heart to forgive me. And I told him I already forgave you a long time ago. It's just that we cannot continue to have this, whatever it is that you think. We already feel like me and you are completely over. This is not your child. You wanted me to terminate your child, so that chapter was gone. This is my child, so you can go and continue living your life. Because you don't just forget these things. You just don't wake up and forget that this person did this to you and one day he shows up at your gate and you are all happily ever after. No. So anyway, he left, and of course by then he knew where I was staying. I wasn't scared or anything. I didn't think he was going to do anything stupid to me. So on like a day before I went into labor, I thought, okay, I want to induce labor. So I went to, I was staying at South Sea around Akiba Estate, and it was like a walking distance away from Nakumat Mega, the one that was near Nyayo Stadium. So I walked all the way to Nakumat Mega, and I was walking up and down the supermarket, just picking up items that I would want to use, like to furnish my home, like table, chair, which refrigerator I wanted, and I was taking pictures so that I could send to my sister to collect them for me whenever the check cleared. So that walking up and down, I think, kind of induced the labor in a way. But even when I got back home, like nothing happened immediately. But that very night, I think as soon as the clock ticked 11, I started having the pains, little at a time, and then they progressed. But I wasn't scared at all. I was alone in the house. I didn't alert the neighbors, like my landlady, because the landlady and the landlord were like a retired couple, and they were always at home. I didn't alert them. I didn't even think I should, because you remember the prophecy from that Nigerian guy who told me that this baby will be a blessing to you. This baby will announce you. Your delivery date will be easy. You'll not die during delivery. I took those things to heart, and I knew that nothing was going to happen to me. And I was so confident that I was not going to have the baby in the house alone. So I slept all the way, like the pains were coming, and I just tried to manage, and I thought I will wait until it's morning, and until maybe the public transportation is out, then I will go to the hospital. I thought to call a taxi, because I had taken like the number of a taxi driver, just in case of emergency, in case I couldn't walk myself to the bus stop, then I would have needed to use a taxi. But the pain progressed, and when morning came, I thought I should take a shower before I got to the hospital. I had already packed my bags. I was ready. Yeah, so the bad thing that I did is that as I went to take a shower, I let the water like run over my back and my belly, and the pain sort of ceased. The labor pains ceased, the contractions ceased. But anyways, I don't know how crazy I was, but it was 5 a.m. and I took my bags and I walked all the way to this station, to the bus stage, which was around maybe 20-25 minutes away. There were no people, like there was nobody on the road, and I didn't even think that maybe somebody could attack me. I was thinking seriously, I was that much pregnant, just walking alone, like, anyway. I was that confident because I knew that God is watching over me. I am not alone. I'm going to make it. Why should I waste like 800 Kenya shillings taking a taxi when I could easily just go spend 20 shillings to go to the hospital? Because anyway, the check hadn't cleared, so I didn't want to misuse the money that I had, and I also needed to go and pay the hospital bill as I was going to be admitted. So I got to the hospital. I checked myself in. By then I hadn't told, the only person that I had told was one of my friends. I just texted her and I told her that this pain is excruciating, and she was sort of scared. She didn't know what to do. She thought, okay, does she want me to come to her home right now? What do I need to do? But I informed my birthing partner as I was going to the hospital. There was one lady, also a friend of mine, who was so willing to be there to rub my back during my labor process. So I informed her that I'm going to the hospital, and I told her just later when it's visiting hours, then you can come. So I went to St. Mary's Hospital in Langata, and that is just a very funny place. But I chose the hospital because, one, it was affordable, and two, because like the mortality rate is very low. Like almost every expectant mother that goes to deliver her baby leaves with her baby. The cesarean section, like not so many people are sent to CS unless it's really necessary. So I thought it was just the best place, and the cost for delivery was around 8,000 Kenya shillings that I had. I thought that is like a fair amount, something that I could easily pay, as opposed to maybe going to Nairobi Hospital or whatever, any other hospital that I couldn't afford. So that was reasonable to me. It wasn't the best place because the service was just, It was a place where they used, you know, this handheld Doppler device as opposed to these machines that they, you know, I never experienced that, maybe the ultrasound machines and all that. So they would just use the Doppler device and press into the stomach and listen to the heartbeat of the baby. You know, the typical midwives, and just maybe feel the baby using their hands and wherever, if the baby had turned to the correct position. So that was their service, which was okay, because anyways, that was the place that I was attending all my prenatal clinics, and it only cost 100 shillings per visit, which was okay to me, depending considering the fact that at that time I was not very like financially strong. So anyways, they checked me and told me that I was only 1 centimeter dilated, and if I don't progress like by the end of the day, then I would be sent back home. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to go back home, and then like I don't want to go back home without the baby. So I was like, okay, I just hope that something happens, because by then the pains had really gone. They were coming like after maybe even 20 minutes or 1 hour. They were so spaced out. So I went into the labor room, and you know, it was like an open ward, like I think a couple of beds, maybe eight beds on that side, like a dormitory, you know, like a one big dormitory, so with beds this side and beds that side. And whenever they would want to check the babies, they would just say like sleep on your backs, we want to check the babies. And all the pregnant women would lay on their backs with the belly of course facing up, and they would walk one by one checking their heartbeats with the Doppler device. It was really interesting. You know, it was such an open ward. You could see all the crazy things that women in labor do. Some that did not want to have any clothes on, some that just were like okay, just doing this, like we were saying, that this one is saying come baby come, you know, all the funny things. Those that were throwing up, those that were going and having their babies and coming back. Like, it was just a really interesting scenario. But I promised myself that should I have a second baby, of course I'm not going back there. But it wasn't that bad. The food was of course really horrible, but again, we didn't pay so much, so it was, anyway, the most important thing was that the baby, we just left with the baby. Okay, so we were advised to pace up and down, so that like to help the labor to progress, you know, at around I think 11, because I go to the hospital around 6. Around 11, I went to the washroom, and the mucus plug, or the show, I saw the show, or wherever the mucus plug got out, but my water my water had not broken at that point. So I just kept pacing up and down as we had been advised, to try and, you know, make the labor, you know, progress, so that I maybe I'm dilated more. And by the afternoon, when they checked me again, I was only 2 centimeters dilated, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be forced to go back home. I don't want this to happen. So I went on Google and checked like how to induce labor, or how to make to fasten the labor process. And I saw that there are some movements, like when the pains come, you hold the bed and you swing like in a certain kind of way. And this really helped. It worked like magic, because before that I was laughing at people. And when I was laughing, I remembered that this guy, the guy that I call the prophet, had told me that my delivery date will be easy, because me, throughout the day, I was laughing at people. I would see how crazy people were acting, and I was just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing at them. All of a sudden, after I did these swings and I did this exercise, my pain started coming like 5 minutes, and then it was 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then I couldn't count. And then there I wanted to pluck off my hair. And by then my labor partner, like my birthing partner, had already come, and she brought me a leso, you know, a leso, because she was like, how could you come to deliver without a leso? I didn't even know that. So she brought me a new leso that she had received as a present during her her wedding day. Her name is Maria, like such a nice lady. So she was rubbing my back, she helped me throughout the process. But I think before my labor really progressed, around afternoon, that is when I called my mom and I told her I'm at the hospital, I've been feeling pains like this and that. And I was like, have you told your sisters? And I told her no. By the time I was coming to the hospital, I wasn't even sure whether I was going to stay, so I thought I should not alarm anybody. I was like, no, why have you not told them? You should tell them. How can you go to the hospital? What if something happens to you and nobody knows where you are? Oh, yeah. So eventually I just texted them and told them, by the way, I'm at the hospital. I'm expecting the baby possibly today. So long story short, around by the time around, I think around 4 something, by the time I went to be checked again, we're like, once the nurse just like used her hand to check how much I had dilated, once she pulled her hand out, my water just broke shop. And from that time now, I couldn't even contain myself. The pain was so much, and before I knew it, I had dilated like fully, like maybe 9 centimeters or something. And I went to the delivery room, and I had to have a, what is it called, episiotomy, because I think I only pushed like once, twice, and then I already been cut, because I was told I started pushing before the baby had crowned, something like that. So I got a really serious tear, but my baby came out fine, and I thanked God. I couldn't believe it. And so she was placed right there in this sort of a warmer, not an incubator, a warmer. And I could see her just covering herself, and I would tell the nurse, is she okay? She's covering her face, maybe she would suffocate. And she told me, stay still, let me sew you properly, the baby is okay. So anyways, the birthing process was done, and I was told, go get your clothes and dress up your baby. I did the dressing all by myself, because anyway, I had already had experience of handling a newborn. So I dressed up my baby, and then I was pushed by a wheelchair now to the, what is it called now, the maternity ward or whatever, I don't even know how they call these things, or the recovery room, with all the mothers that were there. So all the people that went to deliver on that day left with their babies, except one lady that had she went for a random checkup, and there was no heartbeat. So all the time she was going through the labor process, she knew that she was going to deliver, to have a stillbirth. But anyways, I got the baby, and by the next day I was discharged. My two sisters who are in Nairobi came and helped me out of the hospital, plus my friends. Like, there were so many people who came to get me from the hospital. My friend, we used her car, and my sisters came, 2 of them helped me to check out of the hospital. And then the funny thing is that, because of course I was not talking to the baby daddy, I was not talking to him at all. I did not tell him that I'm going to have the baby or whatever, but he knew, because when he even knew when I was going to come back from the hospital, because when I was coming back from the hospital, he was seated waiting for me. He was waiting just to see whether I was going to come out of the car with the baby. He was seated on the opposite, like at the opposite gate outside where he could, and then he saw the car coming in. He just continued sitting, and then he saw me getting out of the car, and then he saw somebody carrying the baby, you know, with the pink shawl, getting into the house. And as once he confirmed that, okay, I came out of the car and the baby is, I came out with the baby, he left. I just could see him on the other side of the gate. I think somebody prompted me, because my friends knew him, and they were like, that guy is over there. And it was like, how did he know when I went to the hospital? I left very early in the morning. Nobody saw me. I didn't even wake up the neighbors. But he knew that I had gone to the hospital to have the baby, and he knew when I was going to, I was coming back with the baby. He waited until he saw that I had come back with the baby, and then he left. But anyways, guys, that is the day that was the most, like, happiest, one of the happiest days of my life. When the baby came into the world, there were no complications whatsoever, because at the following day we were discharged from the hospital. I got home, and by then I did not have any help, because my mom was planning to get me like a nanny from the village, and she knew that maybe I still had 10 days before the baby came, but the baby came 10 days earlier. So my little sister used to be the one helping me. She would come in the morning, like she would come at the end of the day after she finished her work. She would come, wash the clothes, cook, wash the dishes, and then did all the housework, because by then I was still recovering and I did not have any help. I was alone in the house even at night. And then she would go, which I really thank God, and I really continue to pray that God rewards her for that kindness that he showed me through this period. It was 3 days until she told my mom, you need to find this girl some real help, because I am retiring. I cannot continue doing this, because this is too much. And then now from that time, I think I got help. But for 3 weeks, I think for the first like 2-3 weeks, I was alone, managing the baby alone in the house. But I was strong. But then I had seen everything and just taking care of a little child. God was in me anyway, and I took care of the child for those first 3 weeks. And something funny before I finish, you remember that guy Mohammed? As soon as he heard that I had gotten my baby, now the housekeeper was the one that was telling me that this guy, you could think that the baby was his, because even he was speaking Arabic, but he was calling his family in Libya, and she could just hear, oh Angela, oh baby, oh blah 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 blah. Like he was telling the family that I got the baby. Oh my God, that was just really sweet. And he sent the housekeeper with some money to bring to me, like to buy some baby supplies or whatever I needed for food. And also he did some shopping for the baby and gave this lady who was called Consolata, was a very good friend of mine, to bring to me. And yeah, really so nice. I got so many presents. In fact, I didn't buy diapers for the first 3 months after the baby was born. Yes, indeed, she was a blessing to me. She's still a blessing to me. And if you are out there and you're expecting a child and you don't know how you're going to raise them, you don't know how you're going to survive, just trust in God and know that God will take care of the baby, because babies are a blessing, and the God that gave you that child is going to keep that child, and he'll keep you. So never turn your back on your child. Congratulations to all the mummies in the world for everything that you had to endure to bring your miracles into this world. And thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please remember to do so, and I will see you on another video. Bye.